Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cartalicchio. I want to welcome you to the Destination Health podcast powered by Suburban Wellness Group. We have a very special guest today. I am very excited. Valentine's Day is coming up. We're going to be discussing special persons, the SP, and we're going to have a great time. We're going to motivate. We're going to educate. We're going to inspire. I want to welcome Mandy Ross to the show today. Mandy, how are you today?
Thank you, Dan. I feel amazing today. I really do. It is a bright, beautiful day here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I'm so excited to dive into this topic of manifesting a specific person with you, especially with Valentine's Day coming up.
Valentine's Day is around the corner. Now, I've been married for, I think, over 30 years at this point. So, I have my special person, but maybe you can give me some, tricks of the trade and so forth. But before we begin, let's talk about Mandy for a second. She's a catalyst for positive change, international TV and media personality. Love that. Speaker, writer, model, and mindset and manifestation coach. I'm going to talk about that also, whose purpose to help individuals step into their happiest, most successful, aligned, and loving self. She's a YouTuber, digital creator, helps others live beyond their wildest dreams, live their happiest and healthiest lives with the focus on manifestation, mindset, positivity, health, wellness, and purposeful lifestyle. She wants you to live the highest, not even the best, the highest version of themselves. I love that. Thank you very much, Mandy, for coming on. This is going to be great. As I said before, we have a little switch here with the weather. In New Jersey, I have 2 feet of snow. You don't have any snow. I think I'm going to.
We have a little bit of snow. We did get a little bit of snow. I can't say that we're like totally dry here. I mean, Toronto's used to this, but yes. We do a little bit, not anything, I keep manifesting a mild winter here. That's all I know.
I want you to manifest mild for the rest of New Jersey. We would be very happy. As I said to you before we got onto the podcast, my son plays hockey. Snow flurries means at least a foot of snow in the Toronto area. So anyway, let's talk about Valentine's Day. How do we manifest our best relationships, dream partners, that specific person, what you call the SP? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is an amazing topic. And I made notes for today's podcast interview with you or chat with you because there's a lot of different cool things in the world of manifesting. And when I say manifesting, first off, all I mean by that word in itself is our thoughts create our reality. So when I say the word manifesting, what I'm really referring to is just using your thoughts in a way that's going to serve you to get more of what you want in your life, in your reality. And it's always the number one thing I'm going to start this podcast off with, and I'm always going to refer back to, is self-concept, because the way in which, and self-concept, another way put, is just your beliefs about yourself. And I know we hear a lot about this in relationship advice or even law of attraction, manifestation, all these different kind of concepts that exist out there, but it all is going to stem back to you. And this is my personal opinion, and the way I see manifesting work is when you work on building up yourself within, your world without, or your external world, will be a 3D reflection of what it is that you're believing about yourself within. So if you have a high self-concept, you're going to attract higher vibrational people, higher vibrational, say, amounts of money, higher vibration, kind of everything in your world, because it's literally going to be that reflection of within. So the exciting thing about that is that, and this is an interesting concept too, that you may have heard of if you're listening or tuning in or watching out there, is I think it's a fallacy when people want to change things about their circumstances. They try to change their external world without changing themselves. Right. But that's impossible. You can't change what you're seeing in your external world without doing the inner work.
I find that fascinating, and I agree with that 100%, because no matter how hard you work out on the external world, you have to come in within you. That's that self-esteem, that self-concept that you have of yourself. There are times in the marriage where if you change yourself for the best, it changes the marriage for the best. You elevate your partner more, and you have a better relationship, because marriage is a roller coaster at times, and you can go up, you can go down, but you got to look at yourself first. You really have to love yourself first, because if you don't love yourself first, it's impossible to love somebody else, correct?
Totally. And that's, I know it's kind of a cliche. I know some of the things we're going to be talking about this episode are going to probably sound a little cliche, but it really is that concept like of self-concept, and when, you and I, Dan, obviously we've done a lot of this inner work, so we understand when we talk about self-concept is not the same as like self-care. I'm not talking about going and get your nails did or your hair done. Those things are really nice to do for yourself, and that's showing yourself that you care about yourself. But when I talk about self-concept, what I mean is self-respect, self-worth, your confidence within,
Right.
like true confidence in how you believe yourself to be. Do you believe truly and genuinely in who you are? Do you believe you're worthy of love? Do you believe you're worthy of a healthy relationship? Those are the kind of questions or things you want to explore and build up within yourself. Because again, and I've written about this, and I know you and I are friends on social media, but I write sometimes, posts about the fact that it's like, if you want to attract someone into your life, or you want to have this big, beautiful romance in your life, you have to first start by working on yourself. And that's only going to start when you look at the reflection in the mirror and you're happy with that reflection first.
I find that fascinating, and I agree with that, because again, if you don't have that self-confidence, you don't have that self-worth. And when we're talking about self-confidence, we're not talking about being cocky or anything like that. We're just talking, we're just talking about having that quiet, gentle confidence within yourself, so that you can manifest that SP, that's that special person. Now, you just did a YouTube where you were discussing somebody who wrote you a letter. They contacted you and thanking you about helping them with this process. Can we go through that? Can we go through that today?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so happy you touched on this. So yes, as a YouTuber, I put out tons of manifesting and health and wellness content on my YouTube channel. It's just Mandy J. Ross. And today I actually released a video, my most recent video, on a success story of one of my coaching clients, because I do offer manifestation and mindset coaching. And this client came to me, and her self-concept had gotten so incredibly low. Like, we're talking like she was basically ready to almost give up on the relationship she had with her, when I say SP, specific person, another way put, significant other. She basically had like her wits end with this person. The relationship was extremely unhealthy. There were a lot of kind of stories that have been created about this person that was in her life. She loved him, but she was so unhappy in her relationship. And lo and behold, when she came to me, she was literally about to just go like, you know what, I'm done. I don't think this is like, it feels impossible, Mandy. It almost feels impossible, but I'm willing to give it one last shot with your coaching, that kind of scenario. So I had her work primarily, at first, in the beginning at least, on self-concept, and slowly, the more we built her self-concept up within her world, including her SP, started to shift in her external. So I had her do things, and I know if you guys want to go and watch the actual video, I break it down in step by step. I'll try to share as much as I can in this podcast interview with you guys, because a lot of these things can be taken away, whether you're trying to recreate a new version of your specific person. So if you're someone like you, Dan, not literally you, but if you're someone who's already married or in a committed relationship, and let's say you want to create let's say an upgrade, I'll just use the word upgraded version of your mate, that's totally possible, because the thing with manifesting is nobody in your reality, and again, you just have to wrap your head around this. Again, this is just, these might be new concepts to you, but truly what happens when you become a powerful master manifestor, when you become a conscious creator, you realize that you are the operant power. You're the creator of your entire world around you, and it all starts with you. Part of that is knowing that nobody has free will in your reality. You give people free will, and you allow them to show up in versions of themselves that literally you're determining based on your own self-concept. I know that's kind of like, you have to just kind of wrap your head around that one. Basically, the
Hold on.
more
That is, I think that's so important. That
yeah,
is so important.
if you try and break that down, I know that's kind of like, it's a lot in one little concept, but it's,
but I think that's so, I think that's a great concept. I think that's a great concept. And I do understand that concept to be true in what you're discussing in this context. I think that's for our listeners. I think that's very important.
yeah, I think part of that too, and like with this client, we definitely discussed boundaries. Boundaries were a big thing. And that to me, boundaries are a major absolute in relationships, especially if we're talking about intimate relationships, because you get to decide how people show up in your world for you. You determine what you're willing to put up with in relationships and what you're like, heck no, that's not, no, we're not even allowed. Like the way I say it to myself, Dan, honestly, at this point is whether it's, you know, intimate relationships or other relationships in my life, whatever the case may be, I won't even entertain the version of someone that isn't in their highest to come into my reality. And the beautiful part about when you have a mindset like this, when you're trying to manifest, and I'll give you guys like pointers in the video that I put out today, but also like we'll break it down for people how they can do it at home to either improve a relationship or manifest a new person that is someone who's really going to be like their ideal match. And that's really a good thing to focus on with Valentine's Day coming up. So this is the thing though, when we're talking about how you expect, like people will show up how you assume them to be. If this is already like, we're not talking about a new person. So for example, we'll just take, let's just say a random name. So Jane has a relationship that she's unhappy in. Jane, you know, has a person who she loves. You kind of have to look at it like every person that comes into your world, they basically are moldable. They're moldable because you're going to determine how they show up for you based on your self-worth and your self-concept. But also the other side of it could be if you've created a bad or negative or whatever kind of story about them, whatever your assumption of them is, that's also how they can show up in your reality. And it's as simple as, you know, and I always use this example with clients or on my videos, you know, there's certain people in our life who we just assume are going to be loving, caring, supportive, sweet all the time to us. Maybe that's a relative, maybe that's an old friend, you know, just someone who you kind of have already created that story around, and they always show up in that way, right? Like no matter what.
Right.
It works the same way if you have created a negative or unhealthy story about somebody else in your life. And a lot of times what can happen in intimate relationships is, and this is what's important to always keep in mind, no pun intended, your thoughts create. What you focus on is what you see the most. Your dominant thoughts, what you stay focused on is what ends up showing up in your reality. So if you have been with someone for a while, what can tend to happen, and I don't intend this for your audience, if you're in a really loving relationship, then your dominant thoughts are that partner is loving and you love them and they're amazing and all the good stuff. But what can happen is slowly over time, and this is what I've noticed with some of my clients or people I talk to about relationships, if you're constantly focused on, you know, the things that you don't like about your partner, the more you focus on those things, you're actually perpetuating them. You're actually manifesting them to show up more and more and more and more as a pattern.
Right. You're just bringing in that, you're just aiding and bringing that out in them at that point.
Absolutely. You're literally creating more of what you don't want. And it literally, the moment you shift your story within about how they are, like, and this is what I always say, even if it's as simple as try to focus more on their good qualities or good traits, that in itself can like be a game changer in relationships.
Yes.
Now, part of, again, it's always going to go back to you though. So there's a part of you, and this is like, I'll be very, you know, I'm very open with my audience online. You know, I've talked about past relationships that I've been in, even on I have a podcast as well, called Pave Paradise podcast. And I remember I did an episode on, like I've done a few on relationships in particular. And one I literally said on air, it was like, I had this concept back then, even before I was like super heavily into manifesting and being a conscious creator. But I remember saying, and this, I still hold the same belief, you have to always, like, when people aren't showing up in a way that you want them to, you have to look back at yourself and go, okay, what in me is allowing myself to be where I'm at with my self-worth, that I'm actually allowing someone who maybe isn't good for me to show up in that version for me. Like there's something that needs to be investigated. I don't know, like unless I'm working with you one-on-one, it would be hard for me to figure out what limiting belief we might be working with. Some of the common ones though can be things like you might have low self-worth. Maybe you have some guilt in there. There could be a guilt factor of some sort. The old, like some sort of old story around like, you know, abandonment. That can be a really good one for people, you know, they don't want to lose the person in their life, even if they're not the best version or they're not the healthiest version for that person. So again, what we focus on is what we end up manifesting the most in our reality. So that's one part of it. So if you're with someone, I would highly recommend focus on the good in them. Now that does not mean to ignore being disrespected. I'm not giving like a green card for disrespect or any sort of abuse whatsoever. There's no excuse for that. What I am saying though, is the more you focus on the good in someone, the more you're going to see them show up better for you. At the same time, you need to be doing the inner work for yourself so you're built up. So what happens when you build your inner, we'll call it the inner concept, self-concept again. When you have a self-concept, higher vibrational people, higher vibrational situations. When you have a low self-concept, you're going to attract people who are just vibrating at a very low frequency because it's just matching up to you.
It's not meeting your energy whatsoever. Now, you mentioned a couple of things that I want to discuss. You mentioned boundaries. You mentioned low self-worth. In your experience, what are some of the reasons why individuals, or what is that low self-worth? And what are those boundaries? You know, there's a married couple, or, you know, you're dating somebody for a period of time. Boundaries begin to get blurred. What is that? What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Like what are those boundary issues that individuals have a difficult time with?
I think and this is why I always say it's really important to continue, whether you're in a relationship or not, the number one priority needs to be you. You need to put yourself on a pedestal. Again, not in a conceited or like self way, but you need to take care of you, number one. As the saying goes, you cannot pour from an empty cup. When you fill your cup of love within up so much, you will be able to pour that onto those who you love. Now, going back to the boundaries, why do people, it's funny, I'm so happy we're actually talking about boundaries today, Dan. I'm like so happy because I heard a saying recently and it just like it hit me and it stuck with me. People in our lives actually do love boundaries. People love being given direction. People love actually, like, they really do. It's usually the people who maybe are not so good for us a lot of times that are the ones who don't like boundaries because they want to take advantage of potentially you or that boundary. But people, generally speaking, good, healthy, wholesome people actually do appreciate having boundaries in place. It's human to actually want to feel like you are directed in a positive way, right? And that's really what a boundary is. It's saying like, I'm okay with this, and this is what I'm not okay with, right? And this is where you can, you know, here's the line. I have this much respect for myself, or I have this high self-worth. I'm not willing to put up with anything over this line. And that's for myself, not for you. That's for protection of me. And that's what, so when we're talking about the concept of boundaries, why do I think people maybe, let's talk about it from like an inner self place, why people may not, I think what happens is people do generally know, a lot of times people do actually know what their boundaries are. And if you don't, an exercise you can do, and I've given this to coaching clients, you can literally sit and write down, like, in a relationship, only talking specifically intimate relationship, what are your okays, like absolute you're okay with? So you can make a little like chart. What are you okay with? What are behaviors, habits, things in your relationship that are like kind of neutral? And then what are your absolute no's? Like, heck no, I would never allow that. You can then use that reference, whether you're with someone or whether you're, you know, you want to attract someone, so that you are clear. You need to be clear in your own boundaries so that you communicate that to a partner. But going back to why I think sometimes people get like blurred, or things are like, I think first off, they may need that reminder of like what they're actually okay with, because when you're so intimate and so close to somebody, sometimes things can get a little blurred. To me, that's a signal that you need to step back and actually do some reflection just on your own. And I've said this, like, this is partly my personality type, but I've also expressed this to any person I've ever, I've only ever had like long-term, serious, intimate relationships in my life. Like that, that's just been my experience in my past with dating. But when it comes to partners, I've always expressed from the very beginning, and I've been, I guess, blessed to be with partners who, for the most part, have generally understood this. I need to take time for me, but that's not the same as saying, or like I need to take me time to be alone with myself, to develop that relationship with myself. But that doesn't, it's not the same as me saying I need time away from you. It's very different.
There's a difference. There's a difference with that, right?
Very big. So that requires a partner, though, also to be on that receiving end going, I actually love and respect that about you, that you're actually going to take time to focus on you, make yourself your best version so you can show up for me in your best partnership way. That's huge, right? So it's
absolutely.
You need to be able to communicate to your partner, and also know that you still always have to maintain your relationship with yourself. And I think what happens sometimes in intimate relationships is it becomes so much we that we can lose ourselves within that relationship.
I agree.
Where the boundaries can get blurred, because it's like you kind of go from being your independent self and like caring about yourself, taking care of yourself, working on your self concept, and then you like merge with somebody else. And that in itself takes some like time and effort, and like, you're essentially merging your life with somebody else's life and world. So that in itself is like a whole new dynamic to get used to have fun with, to play around with, figure out. That's why it's even more essential that you stay in your own like individuality, that you still on your relationship. And the beautiful thing about boundaries is that when you express your boundaries, that allows your partner to also feel more comfortable expressing theirs. And the thing is, and when we're going back, like this whole thing about manifesting your ideal mate, whether that's someone you're already with or someone you want to attract into your life, the beautiful thing is, if you look at it like this, the way I process it is like, I look at it as though I'm helping that person actually show up as the highest version of themselves. I won't even entertain a lower version. And when I say low, I don't mean like in a bossy way, like saying,
I understand.
Nothing be wrong with being a badass boss bitch, obviously, when I say that, like my clients, literally, I get like in a male version, I guess, like a badass king or whatever you want to call that thing for yourself. But that's just it. It's taking ownership and going like, you know what? I know what I deserve. I know that I'm worthy of only the best in my life. And I'm only willing to entertain that version of you to show up for me. Until you are in that kind of shape, you're just not going to exist in my life, basically. It's having that high self-worth enough to know your own worth, and then knowing that that's all you deserve to show up in your reality. But you have to also work on yourself. This isn't like you sitting back, not working on yourself and expecting like the best person to show up in your life, because they won't. If you don't do that work yourself, you're not going to get someone. It's impossible for some like super high vibrational person to come in when you're like vibrating at a lower frequency.
I understand, because what happens now is that when you're working on yourself, you want your partner to work on themselves in addition to, so that they need that time to do that in addition to. So it's not that you're saying, hey, listen, you know what? I may not like you. I don't love you, whatever the case may be, wherever you are in that relationship. It's that I have my alone time. I'm working on myself, and I want you to do the same. And then I want to come together with you, and we can be the highest
Absolutely.
versions of ourselves. I understand that, because a lot of times in a relationship, I need, and like you said, it's not me time or alone time. It's like you're working on yourself. The other person, could be male or female, they may sit there and they say, "Oh, they don't like me anymore.
Exactly.
They just
Exactly.
they just told me that they love me. We're taking it to the next level, and now that person wants to be alone." That's where
Exactly.
that's where the low self-worth comes in. That's where the
Exactly.
low so that's where that low self-worth comes in, and that's where the relationship starts to break down at that particular juncture, because no,
Precisely.
it's not that I don't love you. I'm just working on myself, whatever that means, an afternoon, in a weekend, or whatever the case may be. Relationships are marathons. It's not a 100-yard dash where you meet somebody, then you get married. Midway through that 50-yard, that 100-yard dash, you're at the 50-yard line, and you have to be the better version, the highest version of yourself. I love that. So what
Totally.
was the outcome with this client that you were talking about? There's so many things
Okay.
that we could talk about. We're
I
just
know
gonna
there's so many.
we
So I
we
have
can
her.
we can we can talk about this for 5 hours, and for
I'll,
those
I
of
will
us.
just have to make this like a regular. I'll come on and we'll chat about relationships and everything.
Yeah, you know what? For those of you, for those of our friends and that are listening in, Mandy and I are going to do this once a month, and the
Yes.
next one is going to be a live one. So today
Yes.
is February 3rd. This is going out February 4th tomorrow, and we're going to be doing a live one at the end of this month, beginning of next month, so that we want to motivate, educate, and inspire. So you guys are in for a treat. I'm learning. I'm taking notes myself, to be honest with you.
Yay.
So thank
It's
you
a
very much for
reciprocal.
that.
It's a reciprocated, like, give and take
Yes.
though, Dan. Always. I always say
Yes.
my win. I love my win-wins. It has to always be a win-win on
Got to
my.
be win-win. So what
But okay,
happened with
so
this client?
okay, so the success story. So I said I promised you guys I will give you some takeaways to do at home today. So I definitely had her work on self-concept, and a lot of that had to do with, even like, I gave her an exercise where she would literally stare at herself in the mirror and say really positive, beautiful affirmations,
Mm-hmm.
developing a true love for herself and connection back with herself, because she was that person who literally felt like she had lost herself
Right.
in her relationship. So saying things like staring herself in the mirror, looking herself in the eye, and literally saying like, "You're amazing. I love you. I love what I see. I love
Mm-hmm.
what I see." Things like that to really build up that inner self concept and self-worth and confidence in herself as well. And the more she focused on herself, her SP, she didn't even have to, she actually removed herself away from this individual so she could actually just focus on herself and building herself up naturally. By virtue of her working on herself, her SP started to transform in her reality without her like doing anything to him specifically. Again, it goes
Mm-hmm.
back to, when you want to change your outer world, it's not about trying to change that and forgetting about yourself. Yourself is the source. You are the source of change. You are the conscious creator. And when you work on in here, everything will shift. You don't even have to take action out there. Does
Right.
that make sense?
That makes total sense, and I am in total agreement with you. Once you do
And what
that.
happened? So you asked me what happened with her. Well, I got her to do a lot of self-concept work. We worked on her positive mental diet. Again, positive mental diet is basically, she had to rewire basically and change the
Right.
story of this old version of this person who meant so much to her, but she was really just at that point fed up with the behavior, the habits, all that. She had to literally only, again, it's like we literally had to rewrite the story of the person she actually wanted him to be. When
Right.
she did that, she was able to go to that imaginal state of only focusing on the version of him she loved. So someone who was attentive, caring, showering her with affection, with her
Mm-hmm.
love language, someone who was, just her ideal partner that she really wanted. And
Right.
this is the thing with affirmations or manifestation. You don't have to believe in, you literally don't have to believe your affirmations when you're saying them. What you need to be able to believe in is that it's possible.
Right.
So she wasn't seeing this version of him in her reality when we started. She was seeing the opposite. But we created a version of him in her mind that she could go to and imagine that. And we'll get into another episode. We'll get into different realms and things, fun stuff like that. In this episode, we don't talk. But basically, you have to think of it like this. This is only this reality we're in, like Dan and I and you watching out there. This is only one reality. There are many realms that exist out there, and that's getting kind of more into the quantum physics side of everything. But
Right.
there's lots of different realms, and there's no one to say like this is more real than that one or another, but like they're all valid. It's just whichever one you decide to tune into. So
Right.
I got her to tune into the reality that existed in her mind. And by virtue of her doing that, she started to actually see it turn into her reality in the 3D here.
Right.
And he completely conformed. He literally conformed into the version, and she is literally with the man who she knew and believed that he could be, but was not showing up as, because she did, at old story, have that low self-worth that was accepting a partner to
Right.
show up in a lower version for her when she built the self-concept up, plus married that, no pun intended, married that with the version of him and only focused on that good version of him and put those together. It literally ended up transforming into what she's living today. So
Right.
complete success. I mean, there's, obviously as a coach, we did go into a lot more in depth about like getting rid of some of her limiting beliefs, her blocks around relationships, like old story kind of stuff. And I got her to do a number of different exercises. I gave her specific affirmations that she could say to herself at home that were really beneficial. A lot of different stuff, but those were kind of the bare bones basics of like, if you're trying to manifest someone new, or you want to recreate someone that already exists in your life, who you already love, but maybe want to see a different version of them, you can start to adopt some of these techniques, and you will start to see a major shift in your outer world.
Right. And there are certain things in life that are non-negotiable. And when you're in a relationship, there's going to be things that are non-negotiable. And that's in part what we're talking about. And it's not that you're changing the person, but you see something in that person and you want to bring that out in that person.
That's the thing.
You see something. Yes. It's not that you're sitting there saying, well, geez, it's Sunday afternoon and I don't want them to watch the football game or something like that. And you're going to, no. It's deeper than that. You want to change that mindset that you have, and you want to be able to bring out this person that this other person is, and you want that to be reciprocal on both ends, so that you can have that loving, growing relationship. For all the guys and girls that are listening to this today, this is good stuff coming up for Valentine.
You're nailing it, Dan. You are a conscious creator and you are a master manifestor. I know we manifested this too. I was going to thank you for manifesting me, first of all. And I'm so grateful that I manifested you, because I know this kind of stuff needs to be discussed more, because like at the basis, fundamental, intention behind all that I do, and like whether it's on social media at Mandy J. Ross, I'm on everything. That's even how Dan and I connected originally. Just putting tons of positive and valuable content out there.
Right.
I really feel like people deserve to know that they are the creator of their reality. They can literally create anything they want to have happen for them.
Anything that they want, correct? Because
no limit. There's no limits to creating.
Because what happens, and for those that are skeptical, you have an old story, this loop that's going on in your head, right?
Yeah.
And this loop continues to go on. And it could be anything. I have a 13-year-old, as you know.
Yes.
And if he has a loop, I'm not good in school, or I'm not good at this, I'm not good in hockey, that manifests at some point in time.
Totally. That's why it's so important. Now it's really, 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 I think it's a perfect segue into like positive mental diet. Right. You need to be so conscious of every thought. We have over, going into the medical side of it, like we have over, the the psychology end of it, like we have, I think it's something like at the low end of it, there's people that have like 60,000 thoughts per day. People who are even more active in their minds have way more than 60,000 thoughts a day. That's over 60,000 opportunities to plant seeds that can manifest. Your thoughts are going to manifest either way. That's the thing. What happens when I'm talking about thinking and how your thoughts create? Every thought you have is, again, an opportunity to manifest. Each thought is a manifestation. The subconscious, when you plant a seed, which is your thought, in your subconscious, it does not know the difference between a positive and a negative thought. All it hears is you being the director saying, okay, I'm focused on this, I'm focused on this, I'm focused on this as a thought. Now, if you snowball that in a positive way, amazing. You're going to start to see those things manifest in your reality. The same works in a negative way. If you start to snowball your thoughts, constantly you focus on all the things that are going wrong, the fact that you know things always happen to you, they're so bad. And I'm sure even if you're the most positive person on this planet, I'm sure you can think of scenarios where you've woken up in a really great mood and everything has just flowed for you in your day because you're focused on how amazing you feel, how your day is going so well, how this thing happened and that thing seemed to happen and the next amazing thing happened. And I can guarantee you probably have a day where you've woken up. Oh, we're having like multiple dance here. I love it.
Exactly. I think I heard somebody else come into our podcast here.
That's
so
I think
maybe somebody's coming in. They're really interested. All right. If they come back in and they start asking questions, we'll answer them.
But that's the thing, like going to this concept though, it's like your mind works as a snowball, right? When you start, and it's like that negative Nelly, as soon as you plant that negative seed, sorry to say, guys, it's going to manifest. So you have to look at it like this. Yes, it's an opportunity to plant, like you can think about and focus on whatever you want all the time, and you will see that start to show up in your reality. Now, if you focused on something negative, it's not to scare you, but that thought is going to manifest in some form. It might not show up exactly the way you've imagined it to, but it's going to manifest in some sort of, let's just call it negative way in your life. And the way in which you can help when these situations come up, say something happens in your 3D and you react to it. And this is why I'm a huge proponent on being responsive versus reactive. Reactive is kind of a no-no in my world, because when you react, you're coming from a place usually of like, it's like anger or sadness or some like kind of negative emotion. Now, you should not deny your emotions, but what happens sometimes is people will get stuck in that kind of low vibrational emotion, and then that will perpetuate into like, that's when you have people who have, this one little situation happens and then they literally let it ruin their day, their week, their month, their life kind of thing, right?
You know what, when you were saying that, we're like living in parallel universes, day, week, month, life, because that's what happens. Because you have an option. You have free will. You have an option. You have free will. So you can manifest all of this negativity. This negativity can create problems in your life, or you're going to manifest the opposite and attract that SP, that special person that's in your life.
Totally. Exactly. And that's the thing. You brought up a beautiful point here, going back to the SP. If you're constantly focused on the fact that you're single or you have a horrible relationship, guess what you're going to manifest more of? And
exactly, because you're looking for that. You're looking for that, and that's what you're going
for it. Even to relate it to, like, say you being a chiropractor, I'm sure, and like we don't have to go into specifics, but I'm sure in your practice you see patients come in, and the ones that have a mindset and they're like a winning attitude about, really, really healing themselves, they generally probably do heal faster. I would be
100%
shocked if
100%.
That wasn't the case. They probably heal a lot faster or eradicate what they're dealing with a lot quicker than the ones that come in and they're kind of like so
100%.
focused on the fact that like it's not going to happen very quickly, or poor me, why did this happen to me kind of mentality.
And that just perpetuates into an abyss, if you will, and you just don't want it.
Your
you
body
just don't,
hears you.
yeah,
The
everything hears you.
universe hears you.
Right.
Everything is a reflection of what's going on in here and what you believe yourself to be. If you believe yourself to be a catch, and this is going back to SP, you want to, if like, let's just
Right.
say let's just say whether you want to have a better relationship with someone you're already interested in, or you want to just create someone from scratch who's going to be an amazing ideal partner. Again, obviously you need to do the inner work and work on yourself, build yourself up as,
Right.
you know, being
Right.
that good catch yourself. But like, if you start to say things like, I am worthy of an amazing relationship, I am an absolute catch, and why anybody would die to be with me, because I offer
Right.
so much. I know my value and I know what I bring to the table in a
Right.
relationship.
I was just going to say that, you know what you bring to the table within that relationship, and you want them to
Exactly.
bring to the table within your relationship. You become that home team,
Yeah.
and that's great.
If you really, you know what, I sometimes like jokingly say this, but it's like, you know, you can like, I love exaggerating your affirmations because I honestly think it does make them more powerful. I mean, you can get fun and like manifesting should be a fun process. That's what I always say to my clients. If it starts to feel like work, chances are you're making it too serious. It needs to
Mm-hmm.
be fun and like have fun with it. You guys are allowed to create whatever you
Where you
want.
want. Oh my
Whoever
goodness.
you want.
Yes.
But like, even with the table affirmation, you can say like, not like, you know, it's one thing to say like, I know my value, I know what I bring to the table. It's like more than that, like I am the table.
Right. I am the table. Okay. We're almost done with our hour, believe it or not. This has gone really quick. This is a great conversation. Again, we're going to have Mandy back in about 4 weeks, end of February, beginning of March, and we're going to be talking more. One last question.
Absolutely.
What are three things that couples can do during this Valentine season to bring and be the highest versions of themselves for each other?
Ooh, I love this
Ooh,
question.
yes.
Let me think about this one for a sec, because I want to give the audience, if you're watching this, I really want to give you guys valuable advice. The three things that couples could do, I'm always going to say, to be honest, I think it would be very beneficial to plan some sort of self-love activity where you genuinely show yourself some major love. Maybe that means doing something you haven't had time to do for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that means like doing a passion of yours, because you have to think of it like this. Again, it is helping to build yourself, your inner self-worth. But when you allow yourself to shine in your brightest light by doing something you genuinely love, like, and feel passion for, feel enthusiastic about, that energy is going to be felt by your partner. Like they're going to
Right.
feel, and maybe it's the type of thing that you actually are able to do in front of your partner, because if they see like that kind of confidence, that kind of passion is super sexy. Like super sexy. When you see your partner doing something that they absolutely love and are
I
just
agree.
shining in their brightest light, that is really sexy and very attractive. So I would
Yes.
say number one, do something that you actually are really, really excited and happy and passionate about, because that's just going to make
Take care of yourself first. Take care of yourself, as you said.
exactly. Now, in terms of what you can do to kind of conjure up that like sexy vibe between you and a partner, I would say there's so many things I want to say right now. If you're not I think it's important to know what your this is one thing I always talk about. It's not even just with manifesting, but just in general. I
Mm-hmm.
think it is really important to identify what your partner's love language is. If
Mm-hmm.
y'all are not familiar with Dr. Gary Chapman, he's a
Mm-hmm.
really, really amazing source or resource for relationships. And he has this concept around how every one of us has, you know, generally kind of a highest love language, and there's
Mm-hmm.
5. I'll just say them now because people at home can take this away. So there's acts of service, there
Mm-hmm.
is physical touch, quality time,
Mm-hmm.
words of affirmation, and what's the other one? The last one. Acts of service. Words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, acts of service, and gifts. Those are the 5. All of
Mm-hmm.
us tend to have 1 or say 2 that are kind of the highest on the Richter scale of like
Mm-hmm.
how we love to receive love the most.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I think it's really important for you and your partner to know how you like to receive love and how your partner likes to receive love.
I
And for
love
you,
that. Yes.
you guys to be able to shower each other in the way and show each other in the top way that you love to receive love, and do that for one another.
100%. I love that. I think that's great. I think that's great.
And
So now,
the last one I would say,
it's all good. We put Mandy on the spot just a little bit.
yeah, that's okay. I mean, I'm such a my friends call me Mushy Mandy.
Mushy Mandy.
I'm literally like such a love bug. I love love, and I love relationships and all that fun stuff. I'd say, like, honestly, I'm just gonna be like kind of corny and just just do little act, like, it doesn't have to be acts, but like, I'm a huge, okay, obviously one of my top love languages is affection. But I think in general, like, I feel like people always need to be showered with more love. Like, whether that's hugs and kisses and cuddling and like just love on your partner, like shower them with love.
Right.
And that's not a one-day thing. I mean, I think this should happen all the time in relationships, but like,
I agree.
I think that's one area that sometimes, especially over the long course, I don't intend that in my relationships. That's actually something I'm like very adamant about not having happen. But sometimes I notice with other couples, sometimes like that fire, that passion, that like
it goes.
die down. Right. And I think it's important to always value and like maintain that like fiery passion between your partner and you. Even it doesn't, and I don't just mean like in a sexual way. I just mean literally genuinely being more affectionate, like,
right. In all ways. Sure.
Yeah, like just making them feel loved in an affectionate way.
Absolutely. So we're going to be back in about a month. We're going to continue on with this conversation and others. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a great collaboration. How can our listening audience find you, Mandy?
Thank you, Dan. The audience, there's a few different ways in which you guys can connect with me. First, I do have my website that everything I'm about to say is going to be on, which is just mandyjross.com. Aside from that, I'm pretty much available on all the social media outlets: Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all the places. Generally speaking, it's just Mandy J. Ross across the board. And then my YouTube channel, obviously I have lots of free resources through videos on my YouTube channel, which is Mandy J. Ross. And then I do have my Pave Your Paradise podcast. So you can just search Pave Your Paradise on pretty much every popular audio app out there. And lastly, I also have a Facebook community group that's free to join called Pave Your Paradise. So you just search Facebook for Pave Your Paradise and you can find me on there as well.
All right, we're going to have this in the show notes, so that's great. Mandy, I'm looking forward to our collaboration. This is going to be exciting, and I think that the major news stations should get in touch with us at some point in time, because I think we're going to have a TV show from this. So that's just my.
You are such a powerful creator. I already know. I was thinking the same thing. Literally, I actually had. This
I think we're gonna. We could start local. Man, let's go right to the major news stations and let's just.
You know what? One of my why stay local when you can go global?
Oh, I love that. Love that. Want to thank everybody for listening in today. As you can see, Mandy is great. She's an expert. I look forward to our collaboration. Want to thank you from the bottom of our heart to listening. We have the best of the best of the best guests on. Our podcast is growing because of that, and Mandy is the best of the best of the best. I'm Dr. Dan. You can contact me at suburbanwellnessgroup.com or greenleafbewell.com. My phone number, office number is 973-483-2277. Mandy's the best. Thank you very much, Mandy, for being on. I look forward to our next podcast, and it's going to go live. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you. And last little thing. I intend for all of you to receive the highest form of love this Valentine's Day.
Everybody have the highest form of love. Thank you very much. Take care.